Hi, everyone. It was a stunning verdict, not even as much for its result as how quickly it came down. Alex Murdaugh, convicted of murdering his wife and son after just 2 hours and 50 minutes of deliberation. 76 witnesses, over 5 weeks of testimony, found guilty on all charges tonight.
The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for murder, guilty, verdict. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for murder, verdict, guilty.
This is one of the fastest high-profile murder verdicts I have ever seen. I mean, the O.J. Simpson verdict, which you just may have heard about, was stunning because it came back in just under 4 hours. This one came back in under 3. It was clearly not even a close call for the jurors. Now, I certainly thought it would be a long deliberation. I'd predicted either a conviction or a hung jury, but I did not expect it would be this easy for the jurors. Yes, Alex Murdaugh had lied about being at the crime scene, and the timeline and his alibi were more than suspicious. Witnesses even testified about him trying to get them to change their recollections of what they remembered from that night. But he also had no history of violence. There was no real physical evidence linking him to the crime, and the motive often seemed muddled. At times, prosecutors argued it was to distract from his financial woes. At other times, it was to cover them up. But it never quite explained why he would have taken the step of actually killing them. But in a murder case, you don't need to prove a motive at all. And any uncertainty surrounding the why apparently didn't make the case any harder for these 12 jurors, 7 men and 5 women, in determining what had happened. That he brutally killed his wife Maggie and son Paul on June 7th, 2021 at the dog kennels at the family's property. Murdaugh is now facing the possibility, maybe even the likelihood, of life in prison when he is sentenced tomorrow morning. Joining us now, Jesse Weber, lawyer and host on Law and Crime Network, which I founded. He's also a NewsNation contributor. Criminal trial attorney Sarah Azari, who we were just listening to a moment ago, whose show Death by Fame airs Mondays at 8 on Investigation Discovery. And Dave Ehrenberg, a prosecutor who serves as state attorney for Palm Beach County, and he's been following this case very closely. Jesse Weber, since you and I have been on the air together on this so many times, your reaction, A, to the verdict, and B, to the speed.
Well, I didn't expect it to come back this fast. I mean, I even said on the air, I thought it was going to be a hung jury. I thought the jury was really going to wrestle with this. I thought it was going to go into next week. Now, having said that, if you had to ask me which way the jury was going to go, if they ultimately came back with a decision, I was leaning towards guilt. There was so much about this case where, you were listening to the explanations about why Alex Murdaugh lied and why he was speeding so fast right after the killings and why there were statements that he made to key people and, his explanations for that and why he did. And it just got to the point where I think the jury said, none of this makes sense, right? What is the alternative? That somebody else was lying in wait to kill Maggie and Paul, and they made sure not to kill Alex Murdaugh. I think it was the kennel video that really sealed the deal, but there were all these other little things, like why he called 911 20 seconds after seeing the bodies. And that gave the jury, I would imagine, the perception that he already knew they were dead. So I was surprised at how quickly this came back, not necessarily surprised at their end result.
All right, Sarah Azari, I want to give you a chance to respond to my comments that I made at the end. I mean, it sounds like you were basically saying that the jurors had decided this case. They had preconceived notions about his guilt, which is basically to say that the jury was corrupted in some way, shape, or form. And it just seems to me that the evidence, why is it not possible that it's just the evidence? There was just a ton of evidence against Alex Murdaugh.
Dan, I have had my heart broken by juries multiple times over the years, and they've spoken. I accept the verdict. I am not accusing this jury of any sort of wrongdoing. I mean, trust and believe, if there's any misconduct, this defense team will be looking into it. But I am stunned. I am just as stunned as Alex Murdaugh was standing there, and everyone's judging him for not having a reaction. Only because, looking at the evidence, to me, There were serious doubts in this case.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.